Well, I forgot a reel, so I've gone back to the car, but you can see I left the camera running with a time lapse. Looks like we got something, doesn't it? See the rod moving away there, even though it's sped up. I think there was something on here. Ah, a doggy. You might see it under different names. For us sea anglers though, we just call them doggies or dogfish. Much maligned, but they are quite obliging, especially when the weather's like this. Might get a little bit rough after a storm hunting around. And there we are. They're quite a robust little fish. I'm sticking back, he'll be alright. So in terms of the baits then, we've got worms on today. You can see these are looking a little bit watery, aren't they? These are gutted worms, and I'm just threading them up the hook. We are using a tried and tested cascade rig today. I've got to sort of punch through the wind a bit, and just the two hooks. We're going to just have one rod today. I'd like to say that that's something to do with tactics, but all that is I forgot the reel sitting at home, so just the one rod. Dogfish will go for those. If you are specifically targeting dogfish, you might be better off with fish baits, but I have heard that the bass have been taking lug, so ideally as I'm sure you're aware, you'd have big fresh worms on a pennel rig, but this is a cascade rig, whereas the top hook connects with the bottom hook, and I've made these hooks up using Cox and Rule hooks, but just so that it hooks onto that lead there, just enough to hold bottom. Nice. That'll do for today's conditions. You will pick out, even in these conditions here, you will pick out little knocks. We're getting a little dogfish on there, I think. That's a dogfish, but what we want is a bass. Bass will definitely pick the weight up hook itself and you'll see a better bite than that. But we've got a dogfish on there again, so get a lot of questions about the rods that I use. I mean, today we've got the Continental rod, and for 95% of my beach fishing I go with the Continental and a fixed spool. Multipliers are great. I've always, I've been using them for decades, but as I've got a bit older I found these these are a little bit easier, a little bit better for my back and ease of casting. I often say with the rods, it really depends where you are fishing. If you're here on the south coast, there's some real joy in using these long 14.5 foot, maybe 15 foot Continental style rods. They've got that really thin tip, and you pick out bites. You can still cast a hell of a way with them without having to wind up the power, and you can be a little bit lazier with these Continentals. Always like to see what the tide's brought in. I mean, these aren't wet shoes, that's what it's brought in. There's a bit of weed in the water. I mean, we can't complain here about the weed. It gets a lot worse up and down the country. It's actually quite nice to see a little bit of seaweed. It shows that it's being held on the reefs as well. Two different types there. You know the difference? That's a bladder rack of sorts, isn't it? It's not the big stuff, but nice to see. Mussel shells being washed up. You get a lot more interesting finds in the autumn. And that looks like a dogfish egg case. That. Amazing to think they're live births from there. It's a Sussex cod. Fucking hell. Look at that. Oh. Well, unbelievable. A cod in Sussex. In August as well. Look at that. Lovely. Ah, a cod. It's a codling. A codling. I can't believe it, a codling. I've never had one off this Sussex beach. I've never had one off a Sussex beach. So happy with that. Look at that. he might be small. What a lot of joy! So we've got the wind and a bit of the tide is pushing right to left, and we've got some rocks to our left. All I'm doing once I've cast is just feeling that line down tide, and before I put it in the rod rest, just to make sure that the lead has stuck fast to the bottom here. Otherwise it's going to swing right into the snag, so that's all I'm doing here. And I've also got to avoid that groin as well, so just making sure the line's in the tide in a bit of a bow rather than being straight through on it. I've just got to sit down and tell you how much of a strange catch that is. A codlin in August in Sussex. Yeah, interesting. I wonder if that bodes well for winter fishing or autumn fishing for codling. I'm going to keep calling it a cod. I know it's a codling. But this, you know, on my local patch, it's just really interesting that there's fish like that are swimming around. I've never actually caught a codling from Sussex, and it just really lifts my mood. It just makes it so much more worthwhile coming fishing. Happy with the dogfish? I wasn't happy with the dogfish. You know, I'd rather see that codling come up than a bass, and that is saying something, isn't it? So wow, I wonder if there's more out there. Let's keep fishing. Look. So although I'm probably better off using a 4.0 or 5.0 hook with a pulley pennel, I'm just going to stick with this, use up these worms and these two smaller hooks. It is an option to change to something bigger. But we have caught on this, so let's just keep going, see what else is in there. Not paying quite so much attention to the bait presentation here with those big mouths that cod and bass have. There's a bit of weight in this line. Sometimes I'll hold the rod, particularly if there's bass around, because the bass will pick up a bait and then just, you know, go for it, maybe shake the bait out. So you need to stay in contact. You don't strike in sea fishing to set the hook. Maybe, you know, for species like bream perhaps you do want to set the hook, but you're not striking in the same way you would in coarse fishing, because the tides out there are so strong. They're going to hook themselves, these fish, in these strong tides. Oh, always want more, don't you? Back on the video here, because you sometimes get small bullhuss and you've got to check. It's like little nasal flaps that the bullhuss have. These are not pronounced, they haven't got like a little ridge to them like the bullhuss, so this is a dogfish. I find that's the most reliable thing, the nasal flaps, to see which is which. I've come down out of the wind. You always want more fish, don't you? I should be happy with a little codlin, but you always want more fish. Coming into the best time of the year for sea fishing. I will be back on those lures. Honestly, as soon as that water clears, September, October, November, the 3 best months for lure fishing for bass. And although a lot of people will say October is really good for sea fishing, it is, but you've got to get out there in the first place. So it is, but only when the winds have dropped down. That's the problem with the autumn, but autumn generally brings the better fish. So even though they're dogfish, it's lovely to see them swim off. Real characters, the dogfish. I'm not going to knock them anymore, although we do want something more interesting. Keep going. Well, this isn't a bad catch either. This is a conger eel, different to the silver eel. You can see its eyes different. It's got that like darkness to the tail there. They just look a little bit meaner. Also, their dorsal fin starts further back rather than going right up to the head. Yeah, real charismatic fishy. Find its own way. Yeah. Most happy about that codling, of course, but conger as well off the same beach, and dogfish. Do I still want a bass? Yes, I still want a bass. I'm a bit greedy, I suppose. Yeah, that was great to see. Tide's coming in. I think we'll call it a day. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. You might want to check out that video there where we fished in very similar conditions. Thanks for watching.